got 6 quiz questions for you, and the questions are really just to see if you were listening yesterday. I only picked 6. I could have picked 100 easily, and I'm going to ask you for some more after my first 6, but I'm going to ask you who said the following things. So, which of our speakers said mosquitoes kill more people than all the conflicts combined? Do you remember who said that? Do you remember who said that? Mosquitoes kill more people in the world than all the conflicts combined. No. No. Yes? Exactly. That's right. Segat Kelemu. Exactly. That's who said that. So who ran the panel on insects, vegetables, fish, and the global context? Amelia, exactly. Amelia Arthur. I thought it was interesting how she framed that panel and with just those key words. It was very clever. So who said climate change has the potential to mitigate 50 years of development in healthcare? Nick, exactly. Nick Watts said that from The Lancet. Ooh, you guys are good. You were listening for sure. All right, here's a different kind of question. Which has more antioxidants and nutritional value, spider plants or cabbage? Spider plants, right, exactly. So who told us to eat more weeds? Winnie, exactly. That chart was amazing, I thought, to see all of the nutritional value of all those so-called weeds compared to the things we eat every day, kale, etc. All right, who said this? When women flourish, Africa flourishes. The president, exactly. The president, actually, that was in her opening address. Here's another one. Facing the climate challenge is not a zero-sum game. Julius, wow, you either took very good notes or you got an excellent memory. Really, that's right. Julius Akinyemi said that. You remember and actually that theme came back again at the last panel when people were also talking about the fact that it shouldn't be a competition in this. We should have collaboration. So that was an issue that came up a couple of times. All right, here's my last one, and then I'm going to ask you for some. Who said the following? We're tired of the violence against our girls. We're done. We're done. Exactly. That was Aisha who said that. And for that, and for her intervention, she had a standing ovation. What were some of the quotes that you remember from yesterday? I'm going to just come around and see if you can give us a quiz question. If you look at your notes you took, does anybody have one to add that you'd like to ask us who said something? It can even be kind of a paraphrase. We won't keep you to it. Anybody think of? Yes, okay. My first question. Maybe just introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Tafadzo Chiganga from Zimbabwe. My quote is, we need to stop thinking that something is wrong with the pit toilet. We can't just flush, flush, and flush.
That was a great quote. Okay, who said that? Snowy.
Yes, it was
Very
Snowy.
Good. Exactly. So that's what I'm looking for. A couple more quotes like that. Those quotable quotes. I actually went on Twitter this morning, and I took some of mine from Twitter. So some of our tweeters are giving us some good quotes. Anything else you can think of? Listening. Just a minute. I'll give you my microphone.
I'm Dan from SQL. Listening to the young one, you'll get something that's inspired to do differently.
Okay, who said that? Lord Boateng, exactly. Ooh, we can do this together. We can recreate all of the exciting moments from yesterday. Can you think of any others? Yes.
If you educate a man, you educate an individual. If you educate a woman, you educate a nation. Who said that?
Who said that? Can you think? Any guesses? Napoleon. Ah. Who?
No. It's from Alberto Sobrino. He's a philanthropist.
Okay. That should be something a lot of people say, actually. So that was a quote that we got. Yeah, because some of our speakers actually used other people's quotes, which is also fine. Do you have one for us? All right.
The best way to predict the future is to invent it.
So who said that? That's a great quote. Julius by Alan Kay. Exactly. That was another good one. All right. For those of you who've just walked in, we're doing a quiz of quotable quotes and high moments from yesterday. So we're crowdsourcing them at this point. Can I take one more from anyone? There were so many good ones. Anybody think of something? Last quote. What about other just high points? So you don't have to give us a quote. Was there something about yesterday's discussions that really piqued your curiosity or inspired you incredibly? There were so many, but is there anything that you would like to kind of just share this morning in terms of some key messages or key takeaways that you got? Please, introduce yourself.
I suppose we miss a lot on spirituality because they mentioned the link with spirituality yesterday, the journalists.
Yes.
Maybe I'd like to have more information on this.
On that. So that's something that you're still curious about. So we'll have some Q&A questions times today, so you can also probe a little bit. And what about some other things, something that you thought was... Someone has a microphone. Yes,
Hi,
please.
good morning, everybody. I'm Françoise Baptiste from Rodrigues Island, from Rodrigues Chamber of Commerce, and also Rodrigues Entreprendre Féminin. What my attention was captured yesterday was ours will be the century of solidarity, or it will not. All other interventions I noticed, and this touches me a lot, was question of solidarity and global, work together, and all these things that alone we won't succeed, but we have to hold hands all together. This is the point that really captured me yesterday.
You're right. That was a very powerful discussion at the end between Patrick and Nicolas, looking at that question. Yes, please.
I am from the Ministry of Environment. What I have captured is that climate change is happening. We do not have a choice. We do not have the time, so we must act immediately.
Absolutely. That was a quote that I had written down too, that our moment to act together, we still have some time to act together, but the window is closing, so the time we have is getting shorter. So that was another quote, yeah. Thank you for that. One or two more things that have really stood out for you from the discussions in the last day? You can think of something that piqued your interest? Yes.
Someone said yesterday that if we can bring everybody from the informal to the formal business, our economy will grow.
Just because of who said it? The president. Okay. Yeah, just by virtue of how large the informal sector is. Great. So thank you very much, all of you, for helping us kind of put together the journey that we took yesterday on the big themes. We talked a lot about water issues. We talked about agriculture, and obviously climate change was one of the underlying big themes of the whole of the forum. Today, we have another very exciting program for you. Yes. Okay. Good morning. So today we have another very exciting program scheduled, as you've seen. We're actually going to start with a theme. I'm not going to say a lot about it. I'll say it more when I introduce our speaker. But one of the points of leverage that seemed to be identified yesterday, something that came back quite a lot, and we actually have our first speaker who's going to touch on that. We're then going to move into a series of sessions that are focused on the issue of energy and climate change. We're going to have an initial set of interviews where we're going to do a deep dive into the climate change negotiations, which really captured the media's attention and continue to do so. Then we're going to look closer at what that means here in Mauritius. Then we have a set of panels that are going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into challenges and some of the way forward. So always taking things from the diagnostic of what's going on now, which some of us are very well versed in, others are discovering in some of these areas, and certainly to look always forward to the future and the solutions. We're also going to go back to Claire Doul and have another one of the amazing women interviews. And so that will happen, followed by a session that's going to be looking at one of the SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goal, in particular, number 6. And so we're going to have the chance to talk again with Snowy and a group of people looking at water and sanitation, specifically in that context of the SDG 6. That'll take us to lunch, and today lunch is very kind of heavily and excitingly programmed. There's going to be a CEO Champions Lunch, but also a Next Generation Leaders Lunch, and we'll tell you more about what's going to happen those when we get a little closer to that. And then the afternoon is really about science and technology breakthroughs and innovation. So we have a number of sessions that are going to be focusing in on that. What's frugal green innovation? What does that mean? What does that hold for us? And certainly bringing more women and girls into the innovation movement. So we're going to be doing quite a lot of discussions on that side of breakthroughs, technology innovations, et cetera. We end with a closing interview with Madam President, which will be very exciting, and next steps from Jacqueline Franjou. And that will be the program for today. As you know, we have another lovely reception tonight. We'll give you a little bit more information about that as we get closer. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Let me start with by introducing the first speaker. As I mentioned, this was a theme that came up quite frequently yesterday, the role of policymakers. Whether it was access to data, we talked about the role of policymakers. Whether it was looking at access to data or trade policy, the role of policymakers came up again. And actually this morning, we're going to be looking specifically at the essential role of politicians, which seems to be a very timely discussion for all of us. I'm very pleased to introduce our speaker, Dr. Ravza Kavakci Khan, who's a member of parliament for the Republic of Turkey. So, Dr. Kavakci Khan, I give you the floor.
Good morning. Madam President, Her Excellency, Dr. Amina Gurib Fakim, I would like to start by thanking you, expressing my great gratitude for your invitation to speak here. Ministers, members of parliaments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to speak in front of you today, and this is my first time in Mauritius. I was told that it is like heaven, and now I'm looking forward to going to paradise, hopefully. That's why I'll be working harder once I'm returning from here. My title is A Planet Where Our Children Can Still Live, the Essential Role of Politicians. But when I'm about to speak, most people were wondering, what are you going to say? We're really curious. We really want to listen to you. And my response was, I'm curious as well. I don't know what I'm going to say either, and I'm really curious still. I have a couple of points. I was thinking, what can I talk about? I'm not an I'm an environmentalist, but I'm not an engineer who works on the environment. I'm not an expert, but I'm someone who is sensitive to environmental issues. So it is something that we all have in common. I said, what can I talk about? I could talk about the fact that I'm a member of Foreign Relations Committee in the Turkish Grand National Assembly, and we pass a lot of laws related to international agreements that relate to the environment as well. And there are some agreements that we also voted on and sent it to our parliament related with Mauritius as well. I could talk about those. I could talk about the fact that I'm the president. I have the honor of being elected the president of the Parliamentary Roundtable at the meeting, COP12 meeting that was held in Ankara last October, and where we had the UNCCD meeting related with how we can further work on the environment and the agreement to preserve the environment. I could talk about my great environmentalist hero, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. One of his sayings, his interest and his emphasis on the environment, caring for animals and plants, and one of his sayings that's close to my heart, even if it is doomsday and you know that it's the last second of your existence on the earth, if you have a tree to plant, plant that tree. That's something that's also close to my heart. I could also talk about the fact that one of the things that's very bad for our environment, that should be all our concerns as humanity, is the fact that we have wars. We don't talk about wars and terrorism as factors that negatively affect our environment, that destroy human life, and that destroy animal life, and that destroy plant life. That's something that's also close to my heart, coming from Turkey, a nation that hosts almost over 3 million Syrian brothers and sisters who have fled their country because of the war in that country. That's another topic I could talk about. Another thing, again coming from Turkey, our President Erdogan, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, talks about the fact that the world should be greater than 5. The world is greater than 5. What does he mean? United Nations Security Council. We respect their agreements, we respect their decisions, but not only 5 countries should decide for the future of the rest of the world. So that's another thing we should think about. Our future as the world, our future as environmentalists, our future as mankind should not be decided on by just 5 nations, where we have more than 190 states in the world. I mentioned a little bit about, a little while ago, how terrorism and wars destroy human life. We all remember, I mean, we're not old enough to remember, but we all know from history, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. One bomb killed generations, killed plant life, killed animal life, and still no plant grows in that area. So that is something we need to talk about. We need to have, I think, at the back of our minds. Another thing that's also important for our environment, coming here to Mauritius, I had heard about dodo. I had the chance to read more about dodo, how dodo went extinct, and I had the honor of listening through YouTube Her Excellency's one of her talks when she talks about the extinction of one kind. I mean, we're living in such a balanced world. Extinction of one dodo, the cost of how many other lives, plant lives and animal lives that were connected to the extinction of dodo. Those who caused this extinction, we need to make sure that doesn't happen again to other life kinds, because we're all living in this world together. Also, ebony trees that are lost. We need to also consider these, and because we're in the beautiful paradise of Mauritius, that's why I'm giving examples more from Mauritius, but of course there are experts who can add more and more to that. I also wanted to mention real quickly, how are we related? How are the people of Mauritius related to the Turkish people in particular? But we believe that we are all related to each other. We believe that we're all brothers and sisters no matter what our race, color, language, ethnicity, and belief are. But to set that aside, in particular, when I look at our history, I see that our great-great-parents, grandparents, all moved from Central Asia to different parts of the world. But we still have good relations. When we look at our history, there is records of 1800s. They go back up to 1800s. And there are times when the Ottoman Empire, the predecessor of Turkish Republic, they sent consulates here. And I also have to thank our honorary consulate for giving me this information. The people of Mauritius, during the Crimean War, when people of Turkey, the Ottomans, were having a hard time, they took out money. They actually sold their property to send financial aid, to give support to the Ottoman people. And we're also grateful for your help, for your nation's help to our grandparents. That's something that's valuable. That's something that's difficult to see, more difficult to see these days. Okay, what can politicians do? Coming to the topic in my last 4 minutes, if I'm timing myself right, what can politicians do to leave a better planet to our children? We have to look at it from a humanitarian perspective. We have to look at the issue from an environmental perspective. We have to find solutions that are particular for the needs and demands of each particular country. What works for Turkey may not work for Mauritius. What works in the Netherlands may not work for Ghana. We all have to find our own solutions. Some of the things that were mentioned yesterday made me remember in one of our classes in African Studies, when I was a PhD student in the United States, my professor was talking about structural adjustment funds. The first times, some of the funds that were not very successful. What happened, for instance, in one particular state where they were giving some funds for people to use in agricultural projects or other projects, what happened was they gave the money, say the funding, to the leader of the family who they thought was the man. But in that particular African society, like in many African societies, the person who leads, who does most of the work in the house and who manages the finances and the work was the woman. That was why, in that particular case, it did not work. So we need to find projects and fund projects and structure them in such a way that fits the need, demands, and the culture of that particular society. That's something very important for all the policymakers at different institutions to consider. When we make our laws, we need to, of course, look for the basic needs, as I said, and the demands, and the particularities of that society. We also need to listen to the people. There are times when politicians, although politicians do not like to admit this, there are times when we may have to make decisions or agree on certain issues that we're not very comfortable with, because there is negotiations and there is agreements. It's give and take. But particularly, we need to listen to the people, what they say, understand their demands, and try to work with their demands. And in that, one of the most important factors is civil society. Civil society and organizations that are expert in that area need to be taken into the decision-making process so better decisions can be made so we can live in a better world. This is also difficult, we need to not act in a selfish manner. When I don't care about the trash that's building in my neighbor's backyard, and I throw all my trash into their backyard, or there will be some kind of problems in their backyard, and I don't care, that doesn't mean I'll be safe. It will be, in very materialistic terms, it will be of my interest to care for my backyard and what's going on in my neighbor's backyard. Even if my neighbor may be miles and miles away, the problem in their area may come and find me the next day. If I don't do it out of humanitarian concerns, I need to do it out of selfishness, because knowing that the problem they have, whether it's an environmental problem or any other problem, it may come to me. Okay, my time is up. As politicians, what I will try to do for myself is I listen to the wonderful speeches, I took my notes, and I will do my best to care more for the environment and promote work that considers our environment and that's good for our environment. Let us care as human beings. Let's care for each other. Madam President talked about smiling the first night. That's something very valuable. Let's smile at each other. Let's care for each other. Let's care for animals. Let's care for plants. And then I think we will live in a better world. And if we make policies that are not just considering ourselves, but considering the others, that will be very good for humanity. Again, I'm grateful to Your Excellency, and grateful to the Honorable Consulate, grateful to Turkish Airlines for flying me in here. Thank you. It's an honor to speak in front of such a distinguished audience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kavakci.